Imagine you are sick and scared, and you are doing what any reasonable person would do. You ask the person in authority for help. You look for something that works. You want relief. You want a simple answer because your body is failing and you do not have time for a long debate. But the person in authority looks at your pain and says no, the simple thing cannot be real. It is too easy. It is too ordinary. It is not impressive enough. And then they offer you something that sounds more serious, more official, more scientific, even if it is harmful. This is a strange human habit. We often trust what feels complex more than what is true. We often trust what looks like control more than what looks like care. And we often reject the thing that helps because it does not match the story we want to believe about how help should arrive. That is the hook here. It is not only a story about medicine. It is a story about pride, fear, and status. And it is a story about time. Because when people delay a real treatment, the cost is not an argument on paper. The cost is bodies. The cost is families. The cost is years of life that do not come back. Now let us set the context slowly, because this topic can trigger strong reactions. Some people hear plant-based treatments and immediately think miracle cure. Other people hear it and immediately think scam. But the deeper issue in this talk is not about cheering or mocking any one treatment. The deeper issue is about how we decide what is worth testing, what is worth funding, what is worth taking seriously. It is about how skepticism can be used in two ways. One way is careful and humble. It says, I do not know yet, show me the evidence, let us test it safely, let us learn. The other way is weapon-like. It says, I have already decided, and I will use the language of science to block anything that threatens my worldview. This second kind is subtle. It can hide behind smart words. It can hide behind good manners. It can hide behind a mask of being responsible. But the result is often the same. Delay. Delay until people give up. Delay until the topic becomes toxic. Delay until only desperate people take risks alone. And that delay can become a quiet kind of harm. The first insight is the surface concept. Sometimes the most powerful treatments look simple at first. They do not look like high technology. They do not look like a shiny machine. They do not look like a long list of ingredients with hard names. They look like a fruit. They look like a plant. They look like a practice. They look like something people have known about for a long time. And this can make modern institutions uncomfortable. Because modern culture often links value with complexity. If it is expensive, it must be strong. If it is hard to explain, it must be deep. If it comes from a lab, it must be real. If it comes from tradition, it must be weak. But real life does not always follow that rule. Real life is full of cases where a basic change makes a big difference. A person with constant headaches finds out they are dehydrated. A child keeps getting sick and the issue is mold in the home. Someone feels anxious every day and the biggest driver is lack of sleep. These are not glamorous solutions. They are simple. But they are not easy, because they force us to admit we missed something obvious. And admitting that can feel like losing status. So instead we reach for more complex explanations. We tell ourselves the problem must be deep and hidden and rare. We choose a story where we are not the kind of people who could be helped by something as simple as a fruit. That is one surface pattern. And the same pattern can appear in modern medicine and mental health. A person is suffering. The usual tools help some people but not all. There is a gap. And in that gap, something new appears. But if the new thing feels too strange or too simple or too outside the usual status systems, it can be rejected not only for safety reasons, but also because it threatens the identity of the gatekeepers. The second insight is the hidden assumption. Many people think that blocking a new treatment is always the safe choice. They think delay equals protection. They think the responsible stance is to say no until everything is perfect. But delay is not neutral. Delay is a decision. It is a decision that the current suffering will continue. It is a decision that people will keep using the old tools, even if the old tools are failing them. It is a decision that desperate people will seek help outside safe systems. And it is also a decision that research will move slowly, because if something is treated as forbidden, it becomes harder to test properly. This is the hidden trap. If you create a wall around a topic, you do not remove it from the world. You push it into shadows. You make it less safe, not more safe. You also create a strange moral situation. The people who can afford private travel and private clinics can still access it. The people without money cannot. So the delay in the ban can increase inequality. And what makes this difficult is that the safety concerns can be real. Some treatments have real risks. Some can be dangerous without supervision. Some can be abused. So a thoughtful person can feel torn. You do not want reckless hype. You do not want people harmed. But you also do not want a system where fear blocks learning, and blocks care, and blocks a real chance of healing. The third insight is a structural pattern. Institutions do not only evaluate evidence. They also protect themselves. They protect reputation. They protect authority. They protect the idea that the official path is the only safe path. And this creates a repeating pattern in history. A new idea appears. Some early evidence looks promising. A few people become excited. Then there is backlash. Critics do not only critique the evidence. They attack the idea itself. They label the people as naive. They label the work as unscientific. They use strong words to make others afraid to be associated. Funding dries up. Careers are threatened. The topic becomes a social risk. Scientists who want to study it have to fight not only technical problems, but also political and cultural ones. Meanwhile, the people who are suffering do not stop suffering. They keep looking. They keep trying to survive. And sometimes they take big risks, not because they love risk, but because the pain is bigger than the fear. This pattern is not limited to medicine. You can see it in schools. A teacher tries a new method that helps kids learn. Another teacher says it cannot be right because it is not the official way. You can see it in workplaces. Someone finds a simple change that improves stress, like shorter meetings or more breaks, and a manager rejects it because it looks too casual. You can see it in families. Someone suggests therapy or rest, and an older relative rejects it because it sounds too soft. The pattern is the same. The system favors what looks serious, even if serious is not the same as helpful. Now let us reframe. The real choice is not between believers and deniers. The real choice is between open testing and closed certainty. Open testing says we will treat new claims with respect and caution at the same time. We will not assume it works. We will not assume it cannot work. We will build trials. We will measure outcomes. We will track risks. We will create protocols. We will learn who it helps, who it harms, and under what conditions. Closed certainty says we already know. It says either this is a miracle and anyone who doubts is cruel, or this is dangerous and anyone who studies it is irresponsible. Both extremes are a kind of laziness. They skip the hard middle work. The hard middle work is slow. It requires careful design. It requires safeguards. It requires follow-up. It requires humility. It also requires emotional honesty. Because when a treatment challenges our moral and cultural comfort, we may feel fear and disgust before we feel. We may feel judgment. We may feel, people should not need that. But people do not choose their suffering. A person with trauma does not choose their nightmares. A person with addiction does not choose their cravings. A person with brain injury does not choose their fog and rage and numbness. So the question becomes, can we create a pathway where we can study new tools without turning people into criminals, and without turning science into theater? Now bring this into daily life. Imagine a parent whose adult child is struggling. They have tried therapy. They have tried medication. They have tried support groups. Some things help a little, but the pain remains. The parent is exhausted. They are scared. They are watching the person they love fade. Then they hear about a new treatment. The old pattern is either blind hope or instant rejection. Blind hope says this will save us, and then if it fails, the crash is worse. Instant rejection says that sounds weird, that sounds unsafe, that is not real, and then nothing changes. The healthier pattern is different. It says, let us not pretend. Let us look carefully. Let us ask what evidence exists. Let us ask what risks are known. Let us ask how it can be done safely in a medical setting. Let us ask about screening. Let us ask about follow-up care. Let us ask how people are supported after the experience, because the experience itself is not the whole story. That kind of thinking is not exciting. It is not dramatic. But it is the difference between science as a tool for healing and science as a weapon for winning arguments. Another everyday example is how we personally deal with skepticism. Sometimes we use skepticism to protect ourselves from being fooled. That is healthy. But sometimes we use skepticism to protect ourselves from feeling hope. Because hope is risky. Hope can hurt. If you have been disappointed many times, it can feel safer to say no to everything. It can feel safer to mock anything new. It can feel safer to call people naive. In that sense, being an anti-new thing person can be a form of emotional armor. You get to look smart. You get to avoid vulnerability. You get to avoid the painful possibility that something could have helped, and that it was kept away. So part of this talk is also an invitation to examine our own inner gatekeeper. Not only institutions. Us. When you hear about a new possible treatment, do you lean toward immediate belief because you want relief, or immediate rejection because you want safety? Both are understandable. But both can block learning. The deeper daily practice is to stay in the middle. To stay with the discomfort of not knowing yet. To be patient while also caring about the cost of waiting. To remember that doing nothing is also doing something. Now the optional deepening, staying with the same topics. Think about time again. When you look back on history, it often feels obvious. Of course citrus helps. Of course it is silly to reject it for 100 years. Of course it is tragic that so many died while arguments happened. But in the moment, it did not feel obvious. In the moment, the gatekeepers felt reasonable. They had theories. They had language. They had status. They felt like they were protecting science. This is what makes the story uncomfortable. It suggests that our present moment also has blind spots that will look obvious later. It suggests that our grandchildren may look back and say, how could they have been so sure? How could they have delayed so long? How could they have treated suffering people like criminals while pretending to be responsible? That possibility can make us defensive. We want to believe we are the modern ones. We want to believe we learned the lesson. But the lesson is not that we should accept every new treatment. The lesson is that we should accept the need to test openly, and not allow fear and status to freeze research. Because the world will not stop producing new forms of suffering. And we will need new tools. And some of those tools will come from places and traditions that do not fit the usual story of progress. The final quiet insight is this. The opposite of skepticism is not belief. The opposite of weaponized skepticism is honest curiosity paired with care. Honest curiosity says show me, test it, measure it, protect people, and do not use the language of safety as a cover for pride. Care says do not forget that behind every debate there are real people who are losing ears, families, and sometimes their lives. So when you think about your own relationship with new ideas, and the way you judge what looks serious and what looks too simple, where might you be using skepticism to feel safe instead of using it to learn?